In Venezuela, the government dismantled a new terrorist plan after the arrest of people linked to far-right groups. Ecuador experienced another violent weekend with more than 10 deaths, several injured, and new failure of the government's strategy to curb crime. And the U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation said to be looking at a shooting near Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump as an assassination attempt. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Venezuelan intelligence dismantled an international network that sought to generate violent actions in the country. In addition, an arsenal of weapons arriving from the United States was seized. Let's see the details.
Venezuelan intelligence seized more than 400 rifles and pistols sent from the US. They were intended to enter Venezuela through normal shipments to be used by terrorist groups. Some of the weapons are for exclusive use by the United States Army. The Minister of Interior, Justice and Peace, Diosdado Cabello, showed a video where FBI officials were present at the warehouse where the weapons were sent from in Orlando, Florida, U.S.
We reached this number of rifles, more than 400 rifles. What were these rifles for? Let's go to the second point. These rifles were not for an exhibition. These rifles were for terrorist acts that were going to happen here in Venezuela. Terrorism promoted by political sectors in Venezuela.
Members of an international network linked to the wave of post-election violence were also arrested. All of them had previously passed through a hotel in Colombia, arrived in Caracas, and from there went to Maracay, in the state of Aragua. They are linked to a fugitive from justice for the murder of a student and an opposition leader who participated in the violent post-election actions, also detained.
She appears in a demonstration in Upata. She lives in Upata. She is a contact of these gentlemen, of these two Spaniards. They ask her via telephone how they can buy explosives, how they can contact a group to do some special work, and on her phone. With them in direct communication, they plan the assassination of the mayoress of Upata. Needless to say, a revolutionary mayoress.
The attack plan had several. Among those arrested is an American hacker, Aaron Barrett. Another prisoner from the same country is Wilbert Joseph Castañeda, an active military officer who is part of an explosives group with a course in river operations and parachuting. He spent 10 months in the Afghanistan War and 6 months in Iraq. He traveled to Colombia in 2012 for an exchange of knowledge. Venezuelan authorities revealed WhatsApp conversations where Castañeda coordinated armed actions. The White House stated on Wednesday, September 4th, that the detainee was in Venezuela for personal matters.
But it is the White House that assumes the defense of this gentleman. They immediately say, "No, he was safe without permission." It's normal for them to say that. He was on personal business. It seems to be normal in the United States for a military man of this type to go out and do personal things and not inform anyone. Active duty military.
Another of those arrested is Jan Darmazil, of Czech origin, and a member of the Commando AZ mercenary team. He wrote down his plan in a notebook to take over the airport and attack the Miraflores Palace. Diosdado Cabello denounced the link between the mercenaries and the intelligence agencies of Spain and the United States.
The CIA is in charge of this operation, and the other that does not surprise us either. But knowing that they always had a low profile, knowing that the CIA operates in this area, which is the National Intelligence Center of Spain. These two captured people say so. They even talk about a group of mercenaries that they are looking for to bring them to Venezuela with the very clear objective of assassinating President Nicolas Maduro, Vice President Delcy Rodriguez, myself and other comrades who are leaders of our party.
The minister also reported the arrest of persons who were planning to detonate explosives at the embassy of Argentina in Caracas with the purpose of harming the Venezuelan government through a false positive.
Ignacio Lemus y Marcos da Silva para Telesur.
In other news, in Argentina, President Javier Milei submitted on Sunday the 2025 budget outlining policy priorities to Congress. In an unprecedented move, Milei personally presented the budget to Congress, denouncing Argentina's record of macroeconomic mismanagement and vowing to veto anything that compromises fiscal discipline. Milei's harsh austerity package has inflicted deep economic pain on Argentina, with nearly 60% of Argentines now living in poverty. Milei managed to balance the budget largely by cutting financial transfers to the provinces, halting public works projects, eliminating energy and transport subsidies, and refusing to raise salaries and pensions in the face of the country's sky-high inflation. The president of Bolivia, Luis Arce, addressed the nation on Sunday and asked citizens to avoid at all costs confrontations between brothers. This way, he asked former President Evo Morales not to damage the country and affirmed that the Constitution disqualifies him from being a presidential candidate. The statement comes after Morales called to a national march and road blockades for his presidential candidacy to be admitted. In this context, Arce recalled that throughout national history, the recovery of democracy has had a high cost for the people, which is why its care has become a collective task of first order. He added that his mission is to avoid confrontation and violence between brothers and the destruction of the plurinational state. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Chile, the Supreme Court ratified the conviction of retired military officer Gustavo Enrique Santibáñez Magaldos for the murder of a 17-year-old boy in 1973. The court detailed that the investigation found that on September 12, 1973, Santibáñez ordered his patrol to detain the participants of the meeting and, in case of escape, to shoot them. The inquiry proved that the young man did not receive timely medical attention after he was shot and bled out. The court established that Santibáñez must pay compensation to the victim's mother for the damages caused. And Ecuador has experienced another violent weekend with more than 10 deaths, several injured, and a new failure of the government strategy to curb crime. With these indicators of insecurity, they are heading towards a new massive blackout that increases the fears of citizens, especially the residents of the southwest of the republic, where the unprecedented peaks of violence continue to skyrocket. In Guayaquil, in the locality of Monte Sinai, the last incident occurred where military personnel neutralized 3 citizens and wounded 3 others in the middle of an alleged confrontation. Recent statistics show that 72% of the victims of massacres have no criminal record, and according to UN Refugee Agency, more than 500,000 people have fled the country because of violence. Mexico celebrated its independence with the capital's Zócalo Square full of people who came to vindicate the government of President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, who bids farewell, leaving the reform of the judiciary completed. With cheers to Mexico, to the indigenous peoples, to the workers, to the migrants, to the cultural greatness of the country, to love and to the fourth transformation, the head of state greeted his people who endured under reign the departure of the most popular president in the country's modern history. The president, who also rejected racism and all forms of exclusion, once again thanked all Mexicans on the most significant date of Mexico's independence. And the U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation said to be looking at a shooting near Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump as an assassination attempt. The incident occurred on Sunday while the former president was playing golf at his course in Florida. The FBI reported the attacker threw an assault rifle and other objects at the scene after the Secret Service fired at him. Alternative media outlets revealed the shooter, Ryan Routh, was a strong supporter of the neo-Nazi Ukrainian Azov battalion, whitewashed and supported by the U.S. State Department. Routh's X account was also suspended.
Former President Donald Trump is safe and unharmed following a protective incident shortly before 2 p.m. on Sunday at Trump International Golf Club at West Palm Beach. The U.S. Secret Service personnel opened fire on a gunman located near the property line.
We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcasts, and some more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Found your break? Don't go away. Welcome back. The Russian Foreign Intelligence Service denounced that Ukraine is preparing a false flag attack with numerous victims in order to accuse Moscow. According to Russian intelligence, U.S. agents will be promoting the operation, targeting a children's center or a hospital in a territory under Kiev's control. The Russian agency warned that the United States intends to make a wide coverage of the tragedy with the participation of mainstream media in order to take advantage of the situation and reinforce its pressure campaign on Iran and North Korea for allegedly delivering ballistic missiles to Moscow. The Foreign Intelligence Service added that after similar plans dismantled by Moscow, more and more people believe in the Ukrainian responsibility for these aggressions. And on Monday morning, Ukraine attacked the Russian locality of Belgorod. The aggression left 8 civilians wounded. According to the mayor of the region, Vyacheslav Gladkov, the airstrike also caused numerous fires affecting civilian property. The fires were set in family homes and cars owned by residents of the targeted area. Firefighters and rescue groups prevented further damage, but one house burned to the ground. The regional government explained that the Ukrainian attack was carried out against residential areas, so the wounded are all civilians and the conditions of one of them is very serious. On Monday, Israeli genocidal forces struck the Gaza Strip overnight, claiming at least 27 lives. 10 of the fatal victims, including 4 women and 2 children, were on a house hit by shelling, which injured 15 others in the Nusayr refugee camp in central Gaza. All were taken to Outa hospital. Meanwhile, Israeli attacks have brought about at least 5 deaths at a bakery in Al-Mawasi and another 10 fatalities. Among them, children have been registered in Zaytun City and Sheikh Radwan neighborhoods. Moreover, another 2 Gazans didn't survive an overnight attack on Rafah. Rescue teams have been effectively searching for survivors under debris. In all, Gazan Health Ministry amounted the death toll to 41,226, in addition to 95,413 injured so far.
We were sitting at home when we were surprised by a missile that fell on the area, causing what felt like an earthquake in the area. The people here are simple, trying to live and have nothing to do with anything. Children, young men and women were sitting in their homes. They all have been killed.
The Yemeni armed forces carried out a military operation targeting Israeli military positions in the Palestinian region of Jaffa. The operation was carried out with a new hypersonic ballistic missile that succeeded in reaching its target. This operation is part of the 5th phase that seeks to respond to Israeli attacks and to bypass all obstacles and interception systems on land and sea, including those of the U.S. The armed forces stated that the Israeli aggressions will not prevent Yemen from fulfilling its moral duty of supporting the Palestinian people. In Mali, the rainy season started last June, and so far approximately 370 floods have been recorded, leaving 62 people dead. Local media have reported that at least 30,000 buildings have collapsed as a result of the heavy rains. Several infrastructures where food was stored have been affected, as well as some 47,000 hectares of agricultural land. The transitional government reported that it has evacuated the victims and is cleaning up ditches to prevent further flooding. Meanwhile, in the southwest of Colombia, the Department of Huila has declared a state of public emergency due to the forest fires that have consumed at least 12,000 hectares of land. According to Governor Villalba, the state of emergency will last for 6 months and will allow the deployment of human and material resources to the affected areas, as well as the provision of the necessary funds to deal with the crisis. Authorities have deployed all means to fight the fire, which has affected at least 30 municipalities, with Palermo being the most affected. In Thailand, the 2-month-old pygmy hippo, Muden, has been enticing media attention and endorsements from organizations like the Royal Thai Embassy, which can be helpful for safeguarding her species. The International Union for Conservation of Nature classified pygmy hippos as endangered species, as there are less than 3,000 in the wild. The baby hippo has doubled visitors at Khao Hu Open Zoo, as she became the star of social media, causing several companies to promote their products with Muden themes. However, mistreatments were reported that prompted the director of the zoo to install CCTV cameras around the hippo's enclosures. In this context, a zookeeper, the director, and a visitor shared their views on the phenomenon.
Pygmy hippos are nearly extinct, so I hope that her cute video clips would play a part that help people love her and conserve pygmy hippos.
As the zoo, we have a duty to lead in wildlife conservation outside the habitat here, so it's our mission to perpetuate the species for as long as possible.
At first, I did not know that pygmy hippos were endangered, but I recently learned from social media posts that there are a limited number in the wild and they are endangered, so I want them to be preserved.
In Argentina, a technique and painting style originated in Buenos Aires known as filete porteño comes to life. Let's get to know it a little bit.
Es una práctica originaria de la ciudad de Buenos Aires.
Filete porteño is a practice originated in the city of Buenos Aires that combines straight lines covered in spirals, the use of bright colors, and certain specific typographic styles. This characteristic style of art can be found on buses, store signs, public spaces, and even in the homes of Argentinians. Generally, they are closely related to the collective memory of the area in which they are placed. They integrate elements such as historical figures, representations of saints, artists of various disciplines, and of course sportsmen, as is the case of soccer player Diego Maradona, a common figure in these works. The drawings used are sometimes accompanied by popular sayings or proverbs typical of the people of Buenos Aires.
A veces van acompañados de dichos o refranes populares propios de los bonaerenses. La ejecución comienza con un boceto, el cual se traslada.
The execution begins with a sketch, which is transferred to a glass or support, and is colored using synthetic paint, varnish, and special long-haired brushes, which helps to make the characteristic curved lines of these works. The works also stand out for their perfect symmetry, the old-fashioned typography, the relief, and the brightness that the artist managed to transmit through the paint. The name assigned to the exponents of this art is fileteador or fileteadora, and for many of them, it represents an opportunity for social reinsertion, since to learn it only requires the support of a master craftsman and the desire to do it. This allowed this artistic expression to be transmitted and perfected from generation to generation.
La experiencia artística se transmita y se perfeccione de generación en generación. Este estilo artístico nació.
This artistic style was born at the end of the 19th century as a simple way to decorate horse-drawn carts. Over time, it evolved to become what it is today, a vital part of the visual identity of the city of Buenos Aires and one of the most deeply rooted practices of its inhabitants, who organize exhibitions, shows, and workshops of this art. The traditional filete porteño of Buenos Aires was inscribed as an intangible cultural heritage of humanity in 2015.
La humanidad en el año 2015.
We continue in Argentina, but now we move to the province of Corrientes, where the practice of the chamame was born a musical genre that is accompanied by a picturesque and traditional dance. Let's see.
El chamamé
The chamamé is a cultural expression of the Guacho culture, a peasant people which extends through parts of Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, Brazil, Bolivia, and Chile. This characteristic dance was born in the region in the 16th century, and although there are several sources regarding its origin, the most accepted assures that it comes from the Guarani idiosyncrasy, one of the great pillars of the Guacho culture. Although this expression is extended by all the mentioned countries, it is in Argentina where it takes a more predominant role in the local culture, specifically in the province of Corrientes.
Cultura local, específicamente en la provincia de Corrientes. La danza alegre y
The joyful and lively dance of chamamé is performed in couples, which are tightly embraced, and when the music indicates it, stomps, largadas and floreos are allowed. This dance is not governed by any particular choreography, which allows the dancers to show their skill through improvisation and celebrate their achievements with the zapucay, a long high-pitched shout of jubilation typical of Guarani culture. Traditionally, this music was played with vihuelas and violins, and over time has added instruments such as guitars, harmonicas, bandoneons, double basses, and accordions, which became an important part of the sound that today identifies the genre.
Importante del sonido que hoy identifica al género. Las letras de las canciones del chamamé.
The lyrics of chamamé songs in the province of Corrientes are currently sung in a mixture of Spanish and Guarani. Both the musical interpretation and the dance are a source of pride for those who perform them, and regularly organize competitions and presentations of this cultural expression, which also forms an important part of community, family, and religious celebrations in the region. Due to its social and artistic relevance, chamamé has been inscribed as intangible cultural heritage of humanity in 2020.
Patrimonio cultural inmaterial de la humanidad en el año 2020.
We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many others on our website telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.